Good evening everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jana Noah, and usually on my channel I post videos for school-age kids with very common social and emotional issues. But once in a while I also produce videos for parents and educators. So this video is addressed to parents who suddenly turned educators overnight because of this pandemic COVID-19. So I have my own children. I have 3 children, 2 of them are teenagers and 1 is adult, and all of them attended public schools. But when they were younger, I spent a good amount of years educating them at home, full-time. And I know it's not easy. And before I had children, I was a full-time teacher in Europe. I worked in public schools, and once my kids got older, I became a full-time teacher here in the United States. 3 weeks ago, we suddenly found out that the parents of our students will have to stay at home and educate their kids with our help, with teachers' help. So the first thing we did, we made sure we would provide them with all the resources that are available. And the good news, there are plenty of good educational apps and videos available and very good lessons posted on YouTube, which is great. So there are plenty of resources. That the main issue is not resources. So that's why I came up with this very simple tips. So number 1, you can be your child's teacher and you can be good at it too. Although it might not feel that way, you might feel exhausted, overwhelmed, it's just too much. But there are millions of parents around the world who are feeling the same way as you do. So there is no such thing as perfect parenting. You might just forget about those perfect images that they show you in the commercials. Like perfect parents, perfect children, everybody's perfectly behaved and happy and have perfect smiles. Or maybe there are some Facebook posts with best examples of parenting. We all like to do that, right? Well, now we're hit with the reality. But you can be your child's teacher. You can be good at it too. So educating your child is not the worst thing that ever happened to you. Just think about those medical workers who work 20 hours a day right now. I have a friend who is a medical worker in Europe, and when she comes home, she barely has enough time to say hi to her kids. She just falls down and goes to sleep, then gets up in the morning and has to work another 20-hour shift. Or think about those doctors and nurses who have to completely isolate themselves from their kids just for their safety. So being at home with your kids is not the worst thing that ever happened to you. It may be the best thing, you don't see it right now. So my next tip is very familiar to you. It's making daily predictable schedule. That's probably the very first thing that your teachers and administrators gave you, right? Or advised you. Like I remember we told our parents to make their schedules with their kids. And of course, a few days later, they emailed me and said, well, can you give a schedule, please? So I made them the schedule. I'm not going to go through the schedule in detail. I'm going to do some touch-ups on it. I'm sure your teachers already gave you schedules, so I respect your teachers and I want to make this video short. So there are only 3 things I wanted to mention about the schedule. First of all, if you have younger children at the age of 8, your most teachable time is in the morning. So right after breakfast, if you have kids between ages 3 and 8, get them on writing, get them on reading, get them on math. So because that's your most teachable time, that's where you get their focus in the morning. Another thing I wanted to mention, also during that time, maybe even right after breakfast too, discuss your rules and expectations for the day. So we have to do it in the classroom. You might as well do it at home because it works. So the rules can be very similar. Like we use our speaking voice, we don't yell. We be kind, we're being helpful. If we need help, we wait patiently. We clean after ourselves, and whatever rules you establish in your house, you are the boss. It might be like, don't go to the refrigerator without my permission. Don't sneak out outside without my permission. So some rules you establish and repeat them every day. I know you will sound like a broken record, but it works. Repeat them and make your children repeat them as well. So do it daily and you will see the difference. Again, establish clear rules and expectations every day and keep them consistent. So my next tip is follow up and down routine. Nowadays we have to say down and up because that's a very common issue right now. A lot of kids spend most of their time in front of a screen. And during this pandemic, we have most of our instructional time in front of a screen. So there's not much we can do, but we can establish our up and down routine, especially if you have younger kids. Because all of us need oxygen in our brains, but for younger kids it's crucially important because their muscles' energy is connected to the way they think. That's the way it is. The way we can do it is after every 40 minutes spent on screen or at the table, they have to get up and do something else. They have to move around. And it doesn't necessarily have to be structured exercise or music and movement. Also, there are so many great YouTube videos already posted there. All you have to do is just type in music and movement for young children, and you will have songs, you will have fun exercise. You can do that too. Well, some kids like it, most kids like it. So you might as well have fun with them. But if they don't, it can be something else. It can be helping with the chores. And actually, homeschool parents don't really call them chores, like sweeping, mopping, helping with the laundry, sorting the laundry, helping with dishes. The homeschool children call it as part of learning. And actually, Maria Montessori called it practical life lessons. And good news is younger kids love them. So just do some chores. So also younger children, I would say between ages 3 to 8, they have to spend some time doing something hands-on. It's also very important for their development because their 5 senses are still developing and they're connected. All 5 senses are connected to their brains. So please make sure they are doing something other than sitting in front of a screen. They need to do something with their Play-Doh, play with blocks. Even if you don't have any blocks, they can play with empty containers or empty boxes, or even their favorite toys. So something that keeps them up and down, very important. Find a working space dedicated to your child's studies. So basically find a spot in the house. And did you notice how I said spot instead of a room? If you have a room for each child in your house, this is great. So then they have their own room where they can go and close the door and study. So it might not be the case. You might have just a dining table, or you might have a kitchen table or coffee table in your living room, and that's okay. It can still be a working space. And trust me, your child can still learn and succeed in that working space. If you don't believe me, think of the biographies of all the successful business people or great scientists, great artists who grew up in a modest condition and they were still able to study and they became successful. So your child can succeed. Another thing that I wanted to mention, as parents, when we work at home, we want our children to respect our working space, right? So we need to respect their working space the same way. So it might not look perfect. You might see some Play-Doh, you might see some construction paper there. That's okay. They will be responsible for setting it up and they will be responsible for cleaning it up at the end of the day. My next tip is find some time for yourself. You've probably heard the saying, when mom is not happy, no one is happy. Well, you can easily replace it with dad or aunt or uncle or a grandparent, anyone who is in a position of educator or guardian right now. And I know you're probably feeling overwhelmed, tired. There are so many things you have to juggle. That's why it's important for you to find at least 30 minutes a day to do something that you really love to do. The best way that works is getting up before your kids get up. And I know it's not easy and it might not work every day, but if you try, you will see the difference. If you're a believer, it's important to spend that very first part of the day in prayer and reading a scripture, meditation. For some of you, it might be just stepping outside and exercising or making music or spending some time on your favorite craft or writing something down. Whatever gives you energy and motivation for the day will make a difference. And Also, we have to mention that we have to get our pajamas and take a shower and wear something decent, because our kids are watching us and they pick up on our emotions and they pick up on our attitudes very quickly. And my last tip is kind of connected to my previous tip, which is fight your worst enemies. And I'm talking about fear, anger, and boredom. Those three things can easily produce anxiety and depression. And we don't want to go that way because we can't afford it. We have to take care of our families and we have to educate our kids. That's why if you find yourself feeling that way, please seek some help. Outreach to your friends, talk to your pastor, talk to your religious leaders or prayer group, outreach to professional counselors. There are probably some counselors available online or over the phone right now, because we all need some help at some point. I know I've used all those resources that I've mentioned above, but if none of it is available, there's always prayer and there is always scripture that you can read at home. So I know that prayer usually works, and one of my favorite verses I wanted to share comes from John 14. It goes like this: "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give you the peace as the world gives you. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." So, as again, it comes from John 14. Please share this video with other parents. If you have any questions or comments, please share your comments and questions in the comments section. And that's it for tonight. Bye.